I walked past him almost every day. Same bench, same blanket, same distant eyes. Some called him the ghost. Others didn't call him anything at all. He just existed. Like a shadow no one wanted to see. People said he was dangerous. My classmates whispered he might be a drug addict or a criminal hiding from the law. Some even said he talked to himself at night, but he never moved, never looked up, never asked for anything. He just sat there, or slept, always silent. I don't know why I noticed him more than anyone else. Maybe it was the way the wind never seemed to touch him, or how lonely he looked even when the park was full of laughter. One afternoon when I was walking home from school, I stopped. My heart pounded. I didn't even know what I was doing until the words slipped out. "Are you okay?" He didn't answer, didn't even blink, just stared through me like I wasn't real. I stood there, frozen, embarrassed, but I didn't walk away, because somehow I knew I had to ask. And that's when everything began to change. The day after I asked him if he was okay, I came back. He was still there. Same bench, same position, as if time had just paused around him. He didn't look at me, didn't say a word. But I hadn't come to talk. I'd brought a bottle of water. It was cold from my backpack. I walked up slowly and placed it on the ground near his feet. Still nothing. Not a thank you. Not even a glance. I left feeling kind of silly. But the next day the bottle was gone. So I brought another one. Then a granola bar. A week passed like that. I never said much, and neither did he. But every time I left something, it disappeared. And that was enough. Then one day as I turned to leave, I heard it so quiet I almost missed it. "Thanks." Just one word. I looked back. He hadn't moved. But he was watching me now. That was the first real moment. I told my friends at school, they called me crazy, said I was feeding the homeless guy, that I'd get in trouble. One girl told me he used to be in jail. Another swore he talked to birds like a lunatic. My mom found out. She wasn't angry, just worried. "Sweetheart, you can't help everyone," she said. "Some people don't want help." But I didn't believe that. There was something in his eyes. Tired, yes, but not empty. It was like he was waiting. Not for food, not for money, just for someone to see him. So I kept going back. Sometimes we didn't say anything at all. Sometimes I'd ask how he was, and he'd nod. Other times he'd just look at me and then away, like the words were too heavy to carry. But slowly I realized we'd made a pattern. A quiet understanding. I wasn't scared of him, and maybe he wasn't scared of me anymore either. He still hadn't told me his name, but something told me he would. Eventually. It had been almost 3 weeks. 3 weeks of little nods, soft thank yous, and quiet silence between us. Then one cloudy afternoon, he looked up at me differently. His eyes weren't as blank this time. There was something new, like a door creaking open just a little. I handed him the water bottle, like always. But before I could turn to leave, he spoke. "My name's Thomas." I stopped. It hit me like a wave. A name. After all this time, I turned back to him slowly. "Thomas," I repeated, like I needed to make sure I'd heard right. He nodded once. His voice was deeper than I expected. Calm, clear, not scary, just worn out. I sat down on the edge of the bench, careful not to get too close. "I'm Emily," I said. He looked at me again, then gave a tiny tired smile. "Thank you." "Emily? For what?" "For the water. And for not looking at me like I'm invisible." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. He glanced at the bottle in his hand. "You're the first to ask," he said softly. If I was okay, the words stayed in the air like smoke. I couldn't explain it, but in that moment I felt something shift, like he wasn't just the man on the bench anymore. He was a person, with a name, a story, and I was starting to understand that his silence wasn't emptiness, it was pain. Thomas didn't tell me everything at once. It was slow, careful, like peeling back layers of a wound that never healed right. Sometimes we'd sit in silence. Other times he'd share a piece of something that didn't seem important until it was. "I used to teach," he said one afternoon, almost casually. "Teach what?" "Music." That surprised me. I looked at him, trying to imagine it. Thomas in a classroom, holding a guitar or standing by a piano. It didn't fit at first. He must have noticed my silence. "Middle school," he added. "Kids were loud, messy, but some had talent." He stared into the trees for a while after that. Another day he brought up his wife. Her name was Rachel. She hated when I left dishes in the sink. I smiled, unsure if I was allowed to laugh. He smiled too, just a little. "And your daughter?" I asked gently. His eyes dimmed. "Sophie." She was 6, loved butterflies, and anything pink. I didn't say anything. I just let him sit with the memory. Then came the part that broke everything open. It was raining. We were sitting under a tree trying to stay dry. I handed him a sandwich, and he held it for a while without eating. They died in a car crash, he said. I looked up. 3 years ago, a drunk driver ran a red light, hit them on their way to her sister's place. His voice didn't shake, but his hands did. I was supposed to go with them, he whispered, but I stayed home to finish grading papers. I couldn't speak. My throat tightened. After the funeral, I didn't go back to work, couldn't walk into that school, couldn't sleep in that house. I just unraveled. He paused, like the rest was too heavy. Eventually I stopped answering my phone, stopped showing up to anything, lost the house, lost my friends. I didn't even notice when it all disappeared. And no one came looking for you? I asked. He shook his head. People try for a while, then they stop. Life moves on. I swallowed hard. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Emily, he said. But it's not life's job to be fair. It just keeps going. I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't crazy. He wasn't dangerous. He was broken, grieving, alone. He had lost everything, and the world had moved on without him. But I hadn't. Not yet. It didn't take long for people to start talking. Small towns are like that, quiet on the outside, but full of whispers behind your back. By the end of the week, kids at school were calling me Hobo Girl. Some laughed when I walked by. Others made fake coughing sounds, like just being near me might give them some kind of disease. One boy asked if I was dating the guy who sleeps in the dirt. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. The adults weren't much better. My mom sat me down one night and begged me to stop going to the park. He's not your responsibility, Emily. He could be dangerous. You don't know him. But I did know him. At least more than they ever tried to. Still, the pressure got to me. I stopped visiting for 2 days, just to clear my head. When I finally went back, the bench was empty. No blanket. No water bottle. No Thomas. I stood there frozen. Maybe he moved on. Maybe he got tired of waiting for someone to care. Or maybe something worse happened. Panic clawed at my chest. I checked the nearby shelters. Nothing. Walked the entire park. Asked the man at the food truck. No one had seen him. It was like he'd vanished. And I couldn't explain why. But the idea of him disappearing, it felt like losing him again. I didn't sleep that night. My brain wouldn't stop spinning with thoughts of where he could have gone, or what could have happened. By morning I was out the door before breakfast. I checked the shelter on Main Street. The woman behind the counter barely looked up. No one by that name here, she said. I tried the smaller church-run shelter next. Nothing. Then the hospital. I described him to the nurse at the front desk. Early 40s. Unshaven, quiet, probably wouldn't give his real name. She shook her head. Sorry, honey. Doesn't ring a bell. I even went to the police station. They looked at me like I was wasting their time. You say he's homeless? One officer asked, raising an eyebrow. They come and go all the time. But he's not like the others. I insisted. He just shrugged. They never are. If he shows up, we'll let you know. I walked out with my hands shaking. It felt like the world was screaming at me to stop caring, but I couldn't. So I searched on my own. Every street, every alley, every bench. It was late afternoon when I found him, sitting behind an old warehouse near the edge of town. He looked worse, thinner, paler, like the light inside him had finally gone out. Thomas, I cried, rushing toward him. He didn't even flinch. Why did you leave? He didn't answer right away, just stared at the cracked pavement. I thought it'd be easier, he said finally, to go back to being nobody. Easier for you too. Easier? I repeated, heart pounding. You think I care about easy? He turned to me then. His eyes were hollow, but not empty. I don't deserve this, Emily. Your kindness, your time. I'm just a ghost. I sat down next to him. You're not a ghost, I whispered. You're Thomas. A music teacher, a father, a person. He didn't say anything, but he didn't walk away either, and that was enough. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't drag him home. I couldn't fix what had broken inside him, but I could remind the world that he existed, that he mattered. So I asked him to let me record him. At first he laughed, not a happy laugh, one of those tired, bitter ones. What's the point? He said. No one cares. I care, I said quietly. And maybe someone else will too. He stared at me for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. We sat on that cold patch of pavement as the sun went down, and I hit record on my phone. He talked about music, about Rachel, about Sophie, about how everything slipped through his fingers. And then, he sang. No music, no instrument, just his voice, rough but full of soul. It made my chest ache. When I got home, I edited the video down to 3 minutes and posted it online. No name, no details, just a caption. I met someone today. He used to be someone else. Please listen. I didn't expect much, but by morning the video had over 10,000 views. By the next day it was at 200,000. People were sharing it, commenting, crying. This man's voice. I hope he finds peace. This broke my heart. And then something incredible happened. A message came through. I think this was my music teacher in 7th grade, Mr. Thomas Grant. He was amazing. We all thought he disappeared. My heart nearly exploded. More comments followed. Former students, a few old coworkers, people who knew him, people who remembered the man he used to be. One woman posted a photo of him years ago, with kids surrounding a piano. He was smiling, alive. I showed Thomas the comments the next day. He stared at the screen like it wasn't real. They remembered me, he whispered. Of course they did, I said. You mattered. Tears filled his eyes. He didn't even try to hide them. That night, for the first time, he didn't sleep on the bench. He stayed in the church shelter, not because he had to, but because for the first time in years he wanted to. The video changed everything. A local nonprofit reached out just 3 days after it went viral. They offered Thomas a spot in a recovery program. It wasn't just shelter and food. It was counseling, therapy, even music therapy sessions for those open to it. At first he hesitated. What if I mess it up? He asked me. You won't, I said. But even if you do, it won't erase who you are. He didn't answer right away, but that afternoon he walked into their office. The change was slow, but it was real. I visited him twice a week. Every time I saw something new. The stubble on his face was gone. His hair was trimmed. His eyes, still tired, were clearer now. People in town started recognizing him. Not as the man on the bench. Not as the ghost. But as Mr. Grant. Thomas was more than just the man who once sat silently on a park bench. He was the music teacher who made middle school bearable for so many kids, including some who thought school was the worst place in the world. I heard stories from strangers who remembered him, how he had a way of making even the loudest, most restless classrooms feel alive. He had a laugh that could fill the whole room, and an energy that made you believe that maybe, just maybe, you could do anything. He was the one who cheered the loudest at talent shows, clapping for every kid who stepped up to sing, dance, or show off a hidden skill. I even heard from a few old students that he once played Bohemian Rhapsody on the school piano, just for fun, to make the kids laugh and sing along. It wasn't just the music, it was how he cared, how he believed in them, even when no one else did. For a while the town had forgotten him, forgotten the man behind the rumors and the silence. But now, they remembered. That was the hardest part to believe at first. How quickly people could forget someone. How easily they could let someone disappear into the background like a shadow. But the video changed that. It reminded everyone that Thomas was a real person with a story worth hearing. One day, just a few weeks after the video went viral, Thomas called me. His voice was shaky, like he was holding back excitement, or maybe fear. They're doing a community fundraiser, he said, almost whispering. They want me to play. I could barely believe it. I promised I'd be there. That Friday night, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I couldn't stop thinking about the journey Thomas had been on. The pain, the silence, the loneliness. And now, here he was, about to step back into a world that once knew him, but now saw him differently. The gym where the fundraiser was held was packed. String lights hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the crowd. The old wooden floor creaked beneath the feet of the people who filled the room. And there, in the middle of the stage, sat the piano. It was old, with scratches and worn keys, but polished enough to shine under the lights. When Thomas walked out, I almost didn't recognize him. He was wearing a clean white shirt and black slacks, simple but enough to make him look like the man he once was. He wasn't the homeless man from the park anymore. He wasn't a ghost fading into the background. He was himself, the teacher, the musician, the father who had lost so much but hadn't completely lost himself. I held my breath as he sat down at the piano and closed his eyes. Then he played. His fingers trembled on a few notes, betraying the years he'd spent away from music and the struggles he still carried inside. But his voice and his hands told a story that words couldn't. It was raw and beautiful, full of pain and hope all at once. The crowd listened quietly. When he finished, the silence was broken by applause, slow at first, then growing louder and louder until everyone was clapping, cheering, some wiping tears from their eyes. I cried too, because I remembered the first day I saw him, alone, forgotten, invisible to the world, and yet, here he was, standing in the light again. All it took to change everything was one simple question. Are you okay? Now, when I walk through the park, I don't just see the place where Thomas used to sit. I see people. People with their own stories. Some are laughing with friends. Some are lost in their phones. Some sit alone on benches, just like Thomas once did. But I don't look away anymore. I've learned that everyone has a story, a pain, a secret life that you can't guess just by looking. You never know what someone is going through. And sometimes, all it takes is one question to start breaking through that silence. One question changed two lives, his and mine. Because when I asked, "Are you okay?" I wasn't just breaking the silence for Thomas. I was breaking the silence inside myself. Since then, I've started volunteering at the same nonprofit that helped Thomas. I help people who feel invisible, forgotten, like they don't matter. It's not easy. Sometimes it's heartbreaking. Sometimes it feels like you're giving everything and getting nothing back, but it's worth it. Because no one should ever feel invisible. No one should be forgotten. And sometimes, all it takes is one question. One simple question can open a door to someone's world. It can be the first step toward healing, for them, and maybe even for you. So if you see someone sitting alone, or looking lost, or struggling, don't be afraid to ask, because that one question might just change everything. If this story moved you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video because someone out there might need to hear this. And remember, sometimes, all it takes is one question.